Okay, well, tonight we're going to do an oral Bible story. And we're going to have you guys retell it after I tell it. So, let's start off with this Bible story. It's right in the middle of the Old Testament. It's between the time of King David, many kings after him, but much before the time when Christ comes. So right in the middle of that time. That's the time of the prophets. And this story is actually about one of the prophets. His name was Elisha. Well, this is the story from God's Word. There was a king in the north and a king in the south. The king in the north was an evil man, but the king in the south was a good man, and he honored God. And the king in the south, he had a special spokesman of God who would tell him special things. And the king in the north was always trying to attack and kill the king in the south's army. And the spokesman would tell him when to move and where to move so that he avoided him. Well, this infuriated the king in the north. And he gathered all his advisors together and said, "Who is the traitor among you?" And one of the guys said, "No, it's not us. There's this man in the south who even knows what you say in your bedroom." "Well, we can't have this," the king would say. We need to go and get him." So he sent his army in the cover of night and surrounded this town where this man of God lived. The next morning, the servant of this man of God, Elisha, woke up, saw the army surrounding them, and panicked. He said, "Elisha, wake up, wake up! The armies are here to kill us." And Elisha waked up and said, "Lord, open the eyes of my servant so that he can see that greater are they that are with us than they that are against us." And immediately, the servant could see that on beyond that army, on the hillside, surrounding them, was an even bigger army. But this army was like a blazing fire because they were angels. But God chose not to use that army. Instead, he prompted Elisha to go down to meet the army. And as he went, Elisha prayed and said, "God, blind the eyes of this army." And as he reached them, he said, "The guy you're looking for isn't here. I'll show you where he's at." And they agreed. And they walked way past his village into the capital city, and through the gates of this capital city, the whole army went through it, and they closed the gates. And Elisha again prayed, said, "Lord, open the eyes of this army." And immediately they were open, and they were terrified because they had just walked into the trap and were at the mercy of their enemy. Now the king in the south called down to Elisha and said, "What should I do? What should I tell my army to do? Should I have him killed?" And Elisha said, "No. God's got a better plan." And he said, "Give them a grand feast and send them back to their king." And that's exactly what they did. And for many years after that, the king in the north did not attack the king in the south. And that's the end of the story.
Go up.
I think so. Yeah, just press that. Press